I wanna take you to a place not very far from here.
Hi, my name is Son, and today we are going to talk about Marxism theory. The contents are a reconstruction of Chapter 8 of a book called Clarifying Communication. This is for the Communication Theory class by Professor Sang Kwon. First, let me introduce the theory. Marxism was coined by Karl Marx and has been remaining one of the key concepts which influenced many other theorists. According to Wayne, Marxism is political, social, economic, and philosophical critic of capitalism. Marshall defined the term as the body of theory and diverse political practices and policies associated with the writings of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Now, let's move on to three key concepts of Marxism. To begin with, there is a huge wall between the ruling class and the subordinate class, and the ruling class controls the rest. Because the capitalist class control the means of mental production, they also exercise control over the production and distribution of ideas. Secondly, through the control that they exercise, the capitalist class are in a position to ensure that it is their views and accounts of the world that will dominate the thinking of the other subordinate class. Lastly, as a result of the dominant ideology imposed by the capitalist class, inequality between the social classes in society is maintained. This idea is from Murdoch and Golding from 1977. Now, let me categorize three roles of media that was mentioned. First of all, it's the role for social reproduction of the status quo. Media keeps on maintaining and reproducing the current trend of a society. Secondly, media shows how unequal social relations have helped from ideological images of society. Lastly, media forms a link between questions of ownership and cultural content of media production. We are going to look at these three roles of media in a capitalist society deeply in this video later on, so please stay tuned. From now on, I'm going to summarize some main points in the chapter. Before we start, I just want to tell you that this chapter is a clarification of the state in capitalist society by Miliband R., the analysis of the Western system of power. The whole contents is divided into two parts, and let us start with the first one. First, capitalist societies do not act as mouthpieces of the government. This means that they do not represent opposition views. 2. Controversial views do not usually deal with minority channels, such as the disabled, elders, or people who are poor. Something that is considered controversial is totally up to their own taste. Number 2. Freedom and opportunity of expression mainly means free expression of ideas that are helpful to the prevailing system of power and privilege. Also, media is taking a role in generating and reinforcing the social and economic status quo. 3. Most newspapers in capitalist world show heavy hostility to the left than the milder forms of social democracy. They define and characterize certain aspect of the left and emphasize it by framing it in a very negative way. Next, press has always been a deeply committed anti-trade union force. Also, most newspapers always have the extreme left and notably communists defining them as evil. To them, left is a group of dangerous, wrong people. Number 5. Popular newspapers function as watchdogs which watch over the left, protecting the status quo. The watchdogs only watch over the left, leaving alone their own side. 6. newspapers can be politically involved, whereas radio and TV must not. Still, impartiality and objectivity is artificial, which means they exist in our society in a different way. Number 7. Mass media, such as radio, TV, film, and etc., are concerned with entertainment and profit. So is newspapers. Still, the content can contain some political and ideological connotations. Majority television is outstandingly an expression of the false consciousness of our societies. This is a quote from Raymond William. Now, this is part 2. Let's take a look at more practical values in Marxism that we can find in our lives. Miliband thinks that influences on mass media boost conservatism and conformism. This means that two ideas and mass media are linked to each other very deeply. He talks about 3 different kinds of influences. The first one is ownership and the control of means of mental production. Ownership determines the contents of productions. Giant enterprises have owned different types of media. The owners of old media are also investing in new media. An example of this is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has its own media, which is known as the Coca-Cola Journey. Recently, they claimed that they would stop all media coverage of themselves except for their own channel. They offer agendas as business, brands, diversity, food, history, innovation, job, sports, and sustainability, and give information about these categories, and some of them are keenly related to their product. The next influence we're going to talk about is advertising industry. Private media, such as independent media like YouTube, depends on ad and sponsorship for survival and profit. As you can see here, sorry for that it's only in Korean, but diagram mainly shows that there is a close relation between the advertisers, creators in YouTube platform in order to earn profit. Therefore, there is a direct intervention on media companies. In this situation, we as consumers of media need to be very skeptical. The last influence we're going to talk about is the government and state system. Governments, ministries, and other official agencies are directly and indirectly managing newspapers. During the 1980s in Korea, Chun Doo-hwan was elected as president of Korea, and during his terms, a lot of TV news talked only about him, and it was called 땡전 뉴스. No matter how important other issues were, media selected news about the president as the first issue being broadcasted on television. Then, we're going to talk about cultural workers employed by mass media. This is a pie chart that shows the ratio of each category. The first type shows conservative commitment. Also, there are various shades of the left who composes the least amount. Lastly, there are ones who want to avoid trouble. These people comprise most of the population, and they do not want to express their politics in order to avoid trouble. Now, let's move on to part 3, which is modeling. I would like to describe the relationship between the terms used in Marxism. In Marxism, there is a continuous contrast between conservatism and the left. Among these intense interactions, various ideas and opinions emerge in our society. However, mass media filters these ideas and opinions in a capitalist society, and what the public gets is only the ideas that support conservatism and conformity. Now, this is a quick sum up and conclusion. So, in the end, Miliband concludes that mass media conform to existing patterns of power, so it fulfills functional role, which is to form a class and remain conservative. Mass media also plays a dysfunctional role, which accounts for only a small amount. It is known as dissemination of dissenting views. However, what's important is that these views are not truly dissenting according to Miliband. In sum, mass media in a capital society does its role to reinforce the conservative view. Then, how should we act as consumers of the media in this capitalist society? I want to tell you that we need to build media literacy. In order to develop media literacy, first, we should build ability to select the right information. We should not accept all different kinds of information. Secondly, we need to practice critical reasoning. This is a key element in media literacy because critical thinking helps us build constructive views toward the different kinds of opinions in our media. Also, we have to communicate effectively through media. Interactions are very important. Lastly, it is important to understand the cultural context. Only with the understanding of context can fully interpret ideas suggested by the mass media.